how to find stories that stick in the Capitol. When you walk into a legislator's office, will your story stick or will it slip away? In this episode, Inland Power and Light's Andy Barth is going to share how utilities can move beyond numbers to craft the stories that our lawmakers care about. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
On this episode of the Story Connect podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Megan McCoy-No, one of the storytellers at Pioneer Utility Resources. And I am joined by one of my favorite people, the delightful Andy Barth. He is the Vice President of Government and Community Relations at Inland Power and Light in Washington. We are together in beautiful Whitefish, Montana.
Yes.
I know, it's so nice here at one of my favorite events of the year.
The premier event
The premier event of the
Yes,
year,
it is.
Andy.
Yes.
It is the NWPPA's Northwest Innovations in Communications Conference.
Yes. Also known as the Fun Havers Conference.
Oh,
Yes.
but now it takes a lot of hard work to
It
have
does.
this much fun.
Yes, it does.
It does.
Dolly said so.
So we all lovingly call it the Nick. But if you
Yes.
hear any noise in the background, it is because we are all together learning, connecting,
Yes.
not networking. A network is something
Connecting.
you build. When you connect, it is something
Yes.
you were like focused on doing.
Absolutely.
And connecting with each other.
Absolutely.
So to-
Connections that stick.
Connections that stick, just like stories that stick.
Exactly.
Look at you bringing it all around. Andy, thank you so much for taking story out of the time out of merriment to join me today. Let's start big picture.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Absolutely.
You spend a lot of your time talking to lawmakers in Washington. And I should clarify, we're not talking DC, we're talking Olympia.
We're actually talking both, but primarily in
okay.
Olympia, yes.
Okay, primarily in Olympia. What does telling your story well to elected, or why does it matter to tell your story well to elected officials for utilities? Why should a utility care about this?
In every state, regardless of what the politics are, the state government dictates a lot of the regulations and how you can and cannot operate as a utility. And so if we're not educating the people who are making those decisions for us, we're doing ourselves a disservice. And so it's one of those things, lawmakers and regulators, those are two different bodies. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. So you have the lawmakers who pass the actual law, but the nitty-gritty details are actually handled in the state agencies, in the regulatory bodies. And so once it's out of the lawmakers' hands, they kind of think of it as, okay, we did it, cool, it's passed, now it's on somebody else, on to the next big thing.
Then goes interpretation.
And if anyone has ever read anything like a bill or a statute, it is clear as murky mud. And so it's always interesting to have that. So not only is it important to really tell the story to lawmakers, but also the regulators as well.
Well, and that makes me wonder, do you have to tell different stories to those two groups? I mean, do you focus your attentions on lawmakers and then have a different set of stories and a different tactic that you're using to communicate to the regulators who are interpreting everything?
I think it's the same story, maybe just we get a little bit more granular on the regulatory side, if that makes sense. So we're trying to get lawmakers to pass legislation that does help our citizens, our environment, but that it does it in a way that promotes longevity, that promotes affordability, that promotes reliability, all of those things. Because while some of their ideas from behind a desk sound great, when you actually get into the day-to-day operations of it, not only does it not make sense most of the time, it's not possible. There's some things that are passed that are not possible. And so our first step is with the lawmakers, so we can make sure that what they are passing is as close to realistic as possible.
Sure.
And then when we go, but that's a little bit more high level. So then we go to the regulators. Okay, now let's talk details. Let's get into the nitty gritty. If you want this, how did you get this number? How do we get that number? And being involved, earlier in our session today at the panel, Sheila said, show up. And it doesn't just stop with the lawmakers. It goes with they hold rulemaking sessions that anyone is welcome to. Ooh. Be there. Be part of the conversation.
Do they have food?
No, they don't.
Andy.
I know. I bring my own. Half party will travel. So just being there, being part of the conversation, helping drive the conversation. Speak up. We're the industry experts. We should be helping shape the policy.
Well, and I wanted to talk to you. You mentioned Sheila Corson
Yes.
at Mason PUD3.
Yes.
She was one of the panelists
Mhm.
on a panel that you moderated today
Correct.
on government affairs, which
Yes.
it's just an interesting title, government affairs, anyhow.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah.
But there was an amazing panel that you moderated, and another one of the speakers was Tucker Billman from
Yes.
ORECA.
Mhm.
And he was encouraging everybody to think first, not about the utility issues, which, to be fair, we all think of our story first.
Well, 100%.
Right. But
That's what we spend our lives telling.
right. But he said, stop that.
Mhm.
Put what you were trying to get across aside, and instead ask the legislators what issues they are concerned about in the community. Find out what matters to them. And it was interesting because we are constantly doing that not for political storytelling or trying to get the attention of lawmakers, but we tell folks that all the time for the magazines. Don't just tell the utility story, feature the faces of people in your community. And I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with politics. Find out what matters to them, tell their stories, and build those relationships.
Yeah.
What's a good example of that working? I mean, what kinds of issues have you found that common ground on in your work?
Yeah, so that's very true. And I think a lot of people, and I will get to your question, but I think a lot of people, shocking, they forget lawmakers are humans too.
What?
They're people. I know. Shocking. I know. But they have families.
Yeah.
Some have kids, some have, they all have their people. And no one runs for office. I mean, I can't say no one. Most don't run for office to create havoc and to create, they run because they believe in
that's
something.
comforting.
Right, I know. Doesn't mean that they don't follow through with it, but they run because they believe in something and they want, whether or not we agree with it or not, guess what? That's what our country's supposed to be. So off that soapbox, examples of how that works. So by and large in the public power industry, at least in Washington state, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a partisan issue, but the beliefs about power become partisan. Usually more on the conservative side tend to be more supportive of our efforts, and those on the left tend to not understand our efforts. I'm not going to say that they're opposed to us because that's not true. They just don't understand because we do a very good job of making sure that when they turn on the light switch, light's there, and that's all they care about, right? And so it's our job to help tell that story. But because they're people too, we're talking about not networking here, but connecting. Guess what? That happens in the lawmakers' offices. That happens with their aides. So many people are like, ugh, we just got a meeting with the legislative aide, not the lawmaker. That's the gatekeeper to the lawmaker.
That's like getting in with the secretary.
You become best friends with them.
Huge thing.
Yes. And so it's all about relationships. I mean, it's cliche to say, but it's cliche for a reason because it's so, so true. There's a lawmaker in Washington state. She is the chair of the House Energy Committee. Her name is Beth Dolio. And she is very progressive when it comes to renewable energy and is really excited about it. And I love her passion. She dives in. She loves to learn more. Not everything that she presents is necessarily realistic or factual about certain parts of the power industry. But guess what? The power industry is massive.
Sure.
And it is complicated and it is technical and it is not an easy thing to do, to operate, to solve, to anything. And so just spending time with her, finding out what she likes. And she, when I was in her office one day and I was talking to her about my husband and my daughters, and one of my colleagues says, show her a picture. And so I did. And that just clicked. And because she loves her family, she started showing me her pictures. And we've gotten a great relationship. And this past couple weeks ago, I held a wildfire mitigation tour for lawmakers at my office, and I've never been able to get her to come. She came this year and dove head first, and it was amazing. And the more we see that, and whatever our politics are, it's not an option to not reach across the aisle because neither side has all the right or wrong answers. It's in the middle, and that's where we have to be.
I still remember when I started out as a newspaper reporter, and I also worked at Starbucks.
Love Starbucks.
Because newspaper reporters are not paid much. And I was fixing coffee for folks, and one of our state representatives came in for his coffee.
Okay.
Right. And I was like, Representative Hembry, here you go. And he looked so scared because he was in like normal clothes. He was just getting coffee.
Leave me alone.
I know. And that's the challenge. I feel, and this is something that the panel y'all talked about. So many people want their time.
Yeah.
And some lawmakers can get into a position where they're just like they were in their defensive mode. Like, don't talk to me.
Who's gonna yell at me next?
Exactly. Yeah. And so building that relationship, making yourself human to them and letting them know that you see them as human and not just a vote.
Yes. And I think one of the most important things to remember with that is when you're building these relationships, it does not happen when you are in the middle of legislative session. No, it happens in the interim. Go to them. Go to where they live. Yeah. Travel. I mean, we have a beautiful region. Travel across your state, meet with different lawmakers on different things, and get to know them. Yes, talk about your issues. It would be not intelligent to not, but talk about them. Talk about their issues. What makes them tick? What are they following? What are they passionate about? Because it's not that you're necessarily going to affect change for them. I mean, you could potentially, but just having that camaraderie and bringing it up, letting them know that I see you as a human. I care that you have feelings and beliefs and passions too. Let's work together to make it work for both of us.
Just letting them know, I see your story.
Absolutely.
It's as simple as it needs to be.
And make it stick.
So, Andy, the first time I met you, I was like blown away because you're very polished and you just have this presence. And I know I tease you about this, but it's true. Like you hold yourself very well and you were very confident.
Yes.
Not everyone is Andy, which that's another podcast too.
But it's a series.
It's a series. But for someone else, it can feel intimidating.
Very, very intimidating.
So when you first started advocating for inland power and for public power in the area, what surprised you the most about how, like, what would lawmakers listen to, what hit home, what helps them connect with you? Was there something that surprised you that might help somebody else when they're getting into this for the first time?
Yeah. So from a personal side, no, because I have a very unique situation. I grew up in politics. My family is very political. I've been door knocking and sign holding, and I mean, I was born with a microphone in my hand, but I still haven't put it down. So, so it's different for me. And growing up in Washington State, I already had a lot of those connections because we don't have term limits, which again is a whole other podcast.
Indeed.
But so mine's a little bit different. But I've started working with folks at Inland who have kind of started. They're not necessarily government affairs professionals, but they're dipping their toe into it. It could be board members. It could be staff that's wanting to take on a new role. My number one thing that I always say first is they're people. Remember that they are people, and remember that they are like us. They just happen to be an elected official that makes very important decisions. Second thing, because we are in the society that we are in and the country we are in, we get to be part of that decision as well. We cannot forget our part in that political process. When it comes to figuring out what makes people tick and what they're passionate about, it's just getting to know them. Ask them. We always don't have to be on. Like, Representative, have you heard about that? No. Hey, Representative, great to see you. Yeah. How's the family? If you have a specific example, how was the rafting trip? How was, whatever. That's when the walls start to come down. And it happens during the interim when we're not in session. Because in session, we always talk about that 15-minute appointment. Yeah. But there's also those appointments where when you're a stalker like me, you wait outside one committee room, wait to grab them, and you talk to them for 5 minutes as they're walking from one committee to the other.
I wanted to ask you about that. We all talk about elevator pitches, but you were talking about the walk and talk.
The walk and talk,
earlier today. You're like, do you have your walk and talk perfected?
Oh, absolutely. It is, and it obviously, because I've been doing it as long as I have, and I have the relationship I have, it's able to change with different people I'm talking to. And there are some people who will not do a walk and talk, and I have to respect that. Like, look, because they're just like, sorry, I can't talk. I've got to go. And because when you're going from one complex committee to another complex committee, you have to clear your brain. And I get it. And so it's also about being respectful. Because when I'm going from one meeting to another, let's say we're talking power supply here and we're talking community benefits here, two very different topics. And I need time to decompress for at least a minute. and go. So I respect that as well. But yeah, talking to him, Senator, great to see you. I'd love to walk you to your next committee. I just have a couple questions, and keep it short. Question 1, question 2, question 3, maybe no more than 3 questions.
Okay.
And I'm big on what are your thoughts on this? Because that will always come back to when they ask you the same thing. So these are my thoughts. How does it affect you? That happens 9 times out of 10.
Really? That's
So
good
it's
to know.
almost, without them knowing it, you're putting them in the driver's seat.
And they like to drive.
They love to drive.
See, no, I like that.
Yes.
Now we're talking about how to tell your story and make sure your story sticks.
Yeah.
Now, from my time working in DC, the other Washington, we would have to we got the opportunity to go to the Hill.
Yes.
Sometimes it wasn't always my job, but part of the time we would go there, and a lot of it was figuring out how to tell the story. And not just have statistics,
right?
Which is hard because
I know we love our charts and our numbers,
but they don't.
They don't.
So they need some numbers, right? But how do you strike the right balance between data and the story that you're trying to tell?
I have found that when it comes to data, pictures are worth 1,000 numbers, and graphs, things like that.
Okay.
And then you can have even if it's a background image that helps bring it to life, if you're able to email them and there's a motion in the background, this is where the communications and the creativity side is invaluable. Make it stand out. Don't make it black and white. Color it up, brand it with your coloring, and have some verbiage there, but be very graphic intense.
So, I know that the whole team at Inland Power is very good at graphics. You shared some of those earlier today. How do you deliver those stories, those storytelling images to them? You mentioned email. What about when you're walking and talking?
Yeah.
How does that work?
We're going to throw a wrench in this.
Oh, please do.
Yes,
Andy.
because in Washington State, you can no longer give paper handouts in the Capitol.
Dun, dun,
Super fun. So let's go back to making something stick. Several years ago, our Olympia fly-in day happened to be on Valentine's Day. My CEO's wife was not happy with me. But we're good now. It's fine.
That's good.
So I was like, how am I going to get this message across? Yes. And it was really, it was right when the Inslee-Murray thing was a big deal with the Lower Snake River dams. And so we really wanted to feature hydropower in a different way than we've ever done it before. And I was like, it's Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Chocolate. So I found this company and we made a chocolate bar and it said, be a hydro hero. I got to do the whole box. But
you didn't put the design on the chocolates.
No, our logo was on the chocolate.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yes. And so every year since then, and so it doesn't count as a paper handout. It's, happy Valentine's Day. Here's some candy. And by the way, there's facts on the back, just FYI. And ever since then, we've done chocolate in different forms, different packaging. Some of it has just been to promote Inland Power because no matter how long you do this, there's always new people. There's new legislative aides, new lawmakers. You always have to tell your story first. And what is our story? We are a not-for-profit electric cooperative who is owned by the people we serve, and we live in these communities as well.
And that you're sweet.
Well, there's that too.
I
chocolate.
feel that kind of ties in.
Yes. So yeah, there's just different. And so this year for our chocolates, again, we had these ones were wrapped in gold foil, and the foil had our logo, and then the chocolate had our logo, and then the box it came in had our top 3 issues on it with really pretty pictures that we've taken of our line crew, because we want to really humanize what we do. Yeah. We have guys out there in all kinds of weather. I showed in one of the presentations today a video that our linemen sent us of snow coming in sideways. Yep. And we sent that out to our members, and they realized what our guys were going through to restore their power. Same thing works for our members as it does with lawmakers.
Do you ever do anything? I mean, no, that's for handing out to the lawmakers. Do you do something similar for their staff?
Oh, absolutely. The same things.
Same things.
They got the chocolate bars. They got the...
Not roses too?
Not roses. Well, no.
Okay.
I think there actually might be a rule against that.
Flowers.
Yeah, something.
Okay. As long as they don't have rules against sweets, we'll be okay.
That's when we're going to pop.
Yes.
I mean, that's... No.
We'll go to bed.
That's when it's... Anyway, moving on. That went and rolled sideways. That was
it's
not
all
supposed
good.
to...
It's all good. So... So I love that example of bringing your story into a form that they can eat. And
100%.
easily consume.
Right.
Is there another example you have of another story that you saw really stick?
We talk at them a lot, and we give visuals, we give reports. Um, we bring, and I'm a very big advocate of going to them, but then
Okay.
we also bring them to us. And as I mentioned, we got the chair of the Energy Committee for the House at our wildfire mitigation tour. We also got for the very first time the chair of the Senate as well. We had 16 lawmakers. We had 4 legislative aides. We had 2 staffers. One was the Senate Energy Committee nonpartisan staffer, and one was the Senate Democratic Caucus staffer. These people are the ones who are actually doing the research and writing the language and giving the info. They are the brain behind all these issues. So to have them was a triumph.
Well, and that ties into something else that I heard during one of your sessions. I think it was the government relations panel, but that in an age of digital media, social media, the lawmakers are always looking for a way for photo ops.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
So I know y'all have done a lot of dam tours in the past, and you
Yes.
said the wildfire mitigation worked really well. What did
So
that look
good.
like?
So it was, and we're already changing it for next year to make it even better, but it was such a success. I'm so proud of the team that helped me put it on. We had presentations in the morning. They heard from our vegetation management director. They heard from our drone pilot and showing what they see with the drones and how we use drones for wildfire mitigation. They heard from one of our sponsors was Overstory. They're a firm that we work with for wildfire mitigation, really data heavy, like getting the nitty gritty things in terms of.
Where did you hold it?
This was in our office.
Okay.
So they came to our location, and then that afternoon, and then they also heard from our engineer as well about our work plan and all the things that we're doing to, make our grid stronger and more wildfire resistant and resilient. And then we took them out. We showed them our rights of way, and we are in 13 counties. We have 7,800 miles of line. And if you take that line and stretch it into a straight line, northernmost tip of Washington to beyond the southern tip of South America, we have a lot of line.
By the way, that's a beautiful example of how you can take
Yes.
data
Yes.
and turn it into
Yes.
a visual without having to hand out paper or
100%.
chocolates.
100%. Although chocolates are nice.
I knew they
And so, but we showed them the different topographies that we have and the different types of vegetation and the different restrictions we have and all of those things. And you could see the aha moments happening.
Did you have examples of the kind of brush that you're dealing with that they could hold
Yes.
and see? Oh,
Yep, they got to
like
hold
that.
stuff. They got to see stuff. They were able to kind of walk in certain areas that maybe the vegetation is in the process of being cleared, so they could see it cleared and not cleared, and walk in it not cleared, so they can understand. It's not just coming into contact with lines, but it's the safety of our line crews as they're patrolling this line. They have to have a clear path, especially if it's dark, especially if the weather is
100%.
awful, right? And so they got to see it all. And then they got to see it completely finished, and they could see for miles.
So I asked you this question in the session, but just for folks who were not there, have you gotten your lawmakers up into bucket?
Yes, we have.
trucks? Or,
Yes, we have. And we have some plans for next year of kind of giving them a glimpse into being a lineman for a day, kind of a thing. When I was at the Washington Farm Bureau, we had Farmer for a Day where we brought lawmakers and they could see what it was all about. They were eating corn raw off the stalk, and it was just, and they loved it. They had so much fun. And so we just want, again, our crews in this industry are so good at what they do.
Yeah.
So good, in fact, that most people don't even know because they just do what they do. They don't look for recognition. They get the job done because when the lights come back on, that is what they're most proud of. And we have to do a better job of bragging.
Yep.
I know bragging has a negative connotation, but we have to brag about our wins. Yes, we have to talk about the things that we're struggling with, but we have a lot of good things going for us too. And a lot of it is the people. It all comes down to the people that we work with and who work for our members.
I love that, and it is so true. I mean, that's what drives everything that you and I do.
Yes.
We geek out a little bit, which is why I love you. But it is exciting. But as you said, and this kind of wraps up to where we started, this kind of a kind of storytelling approach. It's not something you can only do during the legislative session.
Right.
How do you keep it going throughout the year.
Absolutely.
And is there a good time of year for you to reach out to them, or is it just a constant?
It is a constant, but it's not everybody every day all the time.
Don't bombard them.
Don't bombard them.
And don't be a stalker.
And
kind of be a stalker. Be a nice stalker.
At least from like in session committee to committee.
Okay.
But that's it. Don't get arrested. It's not it.
Lessons to live by.
Right, exactly.
Don't get arrested.
Get the job done, but don't get in trouble. But no, I just forgot the question. What was the question again?
How do you, we'll talk about jail time later. But how do you keep going throughout the year? What times are really good for you, and how do you keep those relationships outside of the legislative session?
So there's direct communication, there's indirect communication. In Washington State, we try to leave August free because that's usually when they're either doing energy tours outside of the area. Some do international tours. There's a lot of conferences for them in August. And, some people want to spend time with their family. And so we tend to, it's kind of an unwritten rule that you just don't bug them in August.
Okay.
There are exceptions to that. If I'm working with a lawmaker specifically on a piece of legislation, we communicate usually just via email most of the time, just check-ins. It's not like we do the hard-hitting stuff. But yeah, no, it's circling up via social media. LinkedIn is a huge communications tool for lawmakers. And that's where I interact with a lot of them if it's not on email.
Do you have a special newsletter that you send out to all of your lawmakers?
I don't. I do write, they're not op-eds, but they're industry articles that I will post on social media, and I tag a lot of lawmakers. I've actually co-authored a few with some lawmakers as well.
I like that. Okay.
I mean, it's giving them an opportunity to get their issues out, especially if they're issues that we share as well.
Sure.
And it's an awesome opportunity. There's obviously in-person meetings are great. If you have a staff and a team that allows you the opportunity to be able to be away from the office, that's fantastic. I know there's a lot of these smaller, they don't, because their government affairs person also runs their member experience, also runs their conservation and energy services, and might do billing too. Who knows? And so, but that's the beauty of the public power world is we are jacks of all trade, and we just roll up our sleeves and get it done. So if you can't do the in-person, which is important, there are, in this day and age, there are so many. There's Zoom calls. I've done a lot of Zoom calls this summer with lawmakers.
Oh, okay. So when they're not in session or anything, you just reach out over Zoom and touch base.
Exactly.
Another idea that I heard that I think Katie from Flathead Electric does. They have their key members.
Yes.
So it's like we all hear about key accounts, right? And those are the business accounts that you're trying to stay in touch with.
Right.
But they have key members, and that includes their legislative folks, their regulatory folks.
Yes.
And I thought that was such a brilliant thing, because especially if you are a smaller utility and you can't do everything yourself, make sure that everyone on your team, all of your customer service or member service reps know who those key members
100%.
are. Make sure that the line workers that are going to be working in those areas where they live know where they are. I don't know if you've ever had this happen at Inland, but when I was at my co-op in Georgia, we had someone turn off the power for one of our representatives.
Oops.
Yes, over a billing dispute.
Oh.
It was fun.
Yeah,
and so the person that took the call had no idea. They didn't know the names of the representatives, and it got down.
I'm sweating now.
I know. It was fun. This was this is maybe 20 years ago, and I still remember this because it made such an impact. And after that, we were like, okay, we're going to make sure everybody knows who our state representatives are. Because they live in our community.
Right.
So I know that's another good way of educating your staff. So it's not all on you.
Right. 100%. And during session, I've started doing like a weekly internal update to our board, to our staff. It goes out to the entire staff. I'm sure most don't read it just because as much as I like to be creative in my writing, at the end of the day, some legislation is just not exciting to write about, or it's doom and gloom and it's never fun. But it's there for folks who want to see it. I'm actually considering doing maybe like a legislative podcast for our staff during session. Not committed to that yet, but we'll just kind of see how session goes. But just trying to keep people up to date, because they know that when sessions on. I'm usually in the office very little.
Yeah.
But
And they miss you.
And that, well, we have fun at Inland. We have an amazing crew. But they know something's happening, but they just don't know what.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, you don't know what you don't know. So what questions do you even ask if you're not in it?
It's like during an outage where we keep everybody informed.
Yes.
Why aren't we doing the same thing for all of our staff
Absolutely.
during the legislative session?
Absolutely.
And even quarterly, just to make sure they're aware of what's going
Right.
on in the industry
Right.
and
Yeah.
what to know about. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No,
Yeah.
I like that. All right, last question before I let you
Okay,
go. I feel
yes.
like we could talk forever about
This
this.
is going to be like a multi-episode, I'm sure.
I geek out again. But for folks that are completely new
Mm-hmm.
to government relations, that's
Relations.
not any better than affairs.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not.
Where should your story start?
Go back to the basics. The basics of your co-op, the basics of your PUD, the basics of your utility, because the story starts with our utilities, because our utilities are our communities. We're people. They're people. And one thing that I tell a lot of folks is, yes, co-ops have members, PUDs have customers, other people call them ratepayers. But the one thing that's consistent with all of them is they are our people, are our lawmakers' constituents. They are the ones who vote them in or out. And that is what gets lawmakers' attention.
Yeah.
Now, how you relay that message should never be in a threatening way. But it's one of those, it's reminding them that these are your people, that you're deciding our futures. And that's just that constant reminder, because it's easy, I'm sure, to have the blinders on when you're in session. There's so many things happening. So trying to stay focused on what you can to get things done, you do lose sight of the bigger picture and the real world, because you're in the Capitol and we all do it in all of our jobs. It's very easy to do. And that's no criticism of them. That's the reality. Yeah. That's just the way it is. And so start with the basics. Remind them who you are, because we're going to have issues for days, but when you can tell them the humanizing constituent story, that's what's going to resonate with them. That's what's going to resonate with their legislative staff. And just go back to it's not hard. That's the thing. When we look at things like this, they're like, oh God, we have to, because we think of C-SPAN and all that kind of stuff. I geek out over that, but most people don't. It's the basics. It's way easier than it sounds or than it looks.
It's probably not as easy as you make it look, though. So, Andy, thank you so much for sharing your story with Utility Pioneers. I told you we would have fun.
This will be a blast.
He is Andy Barth at Inland Power and Light, and I'm your host, Megan McCoy-No at Pioneer Utility Resources. And until we talk again, keep telling your story.
Story Connect is produced by Pioneer Utility Resources, a communications cooperative that is built to share your story. Story Connect is engineered by Lucas Smith of Lucky Sound Studio.